The incident at Buckingham Palace serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of reckless behavior, especially in spaces steeped in tradition and protocol. On a warm, sunny afternoon in London, the iconic palace grounds were teeming with tourists eager to witness the grandeur of the royal guards and their majestic horses. Among the crowd was Jessica, a 26-year-old American tourist whose intoxicated state quickly became apparent. Her careless actions turned what should have been a memorable vacation into a cautionary tale. After consuming alcohol throughout the day, Jessica decided to climb over the barriers separating the public from the mounted guards, attempting to mount one of the royal guard's horses, a stunning black stallion standing tall at 16 hands, approximately 5 feet 4 inches. Her drunken laughter initially seemed harmless, but it soon escalated into chaos when the horse reacted defensively by rearing up. As the massive animal lifted onto its hind legs, Jessica lost her balance and fell hard onto the pavement, hitting her head and injuring her side. The crowd gasped in horror as phones were whipped out to capture every moment of the spectacle. What began as a seemingly lighthearted attempt at humor ended with Jessica hospitalized, humiliated, and labeled as irresponsible across social media platforms. This incident underscores the importance of respecting boundaries and understanding the gravity of cultural symbols like the royal guards and their horses. For many, these figures represent centuries of tradition and discipline, making any act of disrespect particularly egregious. Unfortunately for Jessica, her disregard for these principles not only endangered herself, but also tarnished her reputation globally. The horse's reaction to Jessica's reckless actions was both instinctive and powerful, serving as a pivotal moment in this unfortunate incident. As Jessica, visibly intoxicated and disregarding all boundaries, attempted to climb onto the royal guard's horse, the animal responded in the only way it knew how, by defending itself. When Jessica grabbed the reins and yanked at them, the horse immediately sensed danger. Its ears flattened back, a clear sign of agitation, but Jessica either didn't notice or chose to ignore it. Her persistence grew more aggressive as she tried hoisting herself onto the horse's back, pulling harder on the reins and disturbing the animal's composure. The horse shifted its weight beneath the saddle, an early warning that went unheeded. But when Jessica lifted her leg higher, attempting to mount the horse fully, the situation escalated dramatically. With a sudden burst of energy, the massive black stallion reared up onto its hind legs, its front hooves flailing in the air. Jessica screamed in terror as she lost her balance, tumbling backward onto the hard pavement with a sickening thud. The crowd gasped in horror as the horse's front hoof swung dangerously close to her face, narrowly missing her. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow down as the chaos unfolded. The guards struggled to regain control of the agitated animal, while Jessica lay sprawled on the ground, clutching her side in pain. Blood trickled from her busted lip, and her vision blurred as the impact knocked the wind out of her lungs. Meanwhile, the horse continued to snort loudly and stomp its hooves, clearly unsettled by the entire ordeal. It took several moments for the guard to steady the animal, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the mounting tension around him. What made this moment particularly striking was how the horse transformed from a symbol of stoic professionalism into an unexpected hero. To many observers, the horse wasn't just protecting itself, it was also safeguarding the dignity of the royal guard and the sanctity of Buckingham Palace. While Jessica had viewed the horse as nothing more than a prop for her drunken antics, the animal proved otherwise through its fierce and defensive response. This reaction resonated deeply with the crowd, who quickly turned against Jessica, labeling her behavior as disrespectful and foolish. Social media users later praised the horse for standing its ground, with memes and hashtags like "Justice for the Royal Horse" flooding platforms worldwide. In the end, the horse's reaction not only highlighted the importance of respecting boundaries but also underscored the inherent majesty and power of these animals. Ironically, while Jessica ended up humiliated and injured, the horse emerged as a symbol of grace under pressure, earning admiration from people across the globe. The public humiliation Jessica faced after her reckless behavior at Buckingham Palace was swift, severe, and unrelenting. As she lay sprawled on the cold pavement, clutching her side in pain, the crowd's reaction quickly shifted from shock to disgust. What began as a chaotic scene erupted into a collective judgment of her actions, with dozens of tourists recording every moment on their phones. The flashing lights of phone screens illuminated the area, turning what should have been a private moment of regret into a public spectacle. For Jessica, this was only the beginning of her nightmare. Her drunken smile vanished as reality set in. She wasn't just injured, she was humiliated. The murmurs of the crowd echoed around her. "She's drunk," one person whispered. "What was she thinking?" another muttered. These words cut deeper than any physical injury could. The judgmental stares and audible comments made it clear that no one in the crowd sympathized with her plight. Social media amplified Jessica's shame exponentially. Within minutes, videos of her fall went viral under hashtags like #HorseJustice and #RoyalGuardHero. Memes mocking her were shared across platforms, turning her into an internet punchline. Clips of the horse rearing up and Jessica tumbling backward were replayed endlessly, accompanied by captions labeling her as reckless, disrespectful, and foolish. Even strangers who weren't present at the scene weighed in, leaving harsh comments beneath the posts. Some ridiculed her outfit, while others criticized her decision-making skills, calling her a drunk Karen who deserved everything she got. To make matters worse, the horse itself became an unlikely hero. People praised its composure and professionalism, further highlighting the stark contrast between its dignity and Jessica's chaotic behavior. Comments like, "The horse has more class than her," flooded social media feeds, adding insult to injury. For Jessica, the humiliation didn't end there. Back in the hospital bed later that night, her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. Each alert brought fresh waves of embarrassment as she scrolled through clips of her fall being dissected by strangers worldwide. Social media users dissected every detail of her appearance, mannerisms, and choice of clothing, reducing her humanity to fodder for online mockery. She realized that what had seemed like a harmless act fueled by alcohol had spiraled into something far greater, a global joke at her expense. Worse still, her name was now permanently attached to this incident, making it impossible to escape the consequences of her actions. Ironically, while Jessica sought attention by attempting to mount the Royal Guard's horse, the very act backfired spectacularly, leaving her not as the center of admiration, but as the subject of ridicule. In the court of public opinion, there was no forgiveness or redemption, only relentless judgment. The legal and disciplinary consequences Jessica faced after her reckless behavior at Buckingham Palace were as severe as they were inevitable. After being detained by the Royal Guard, law enforcement officers swiftly arrived to assess the situation. The crowd had already captured every moment of the incident on their phones, and videos of Jessica's fall were spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. As paramedics tended to her injuries, a cracked rib, bruised hip, and minor concussion, police officers began questioning both Jessica and the guard involved. Despite her protests that she didn't mean any harm, the evidence against her was overwhelming. Not only had she crossed a restricted barrier, but she had also interfered with a royal guard and endangered a government-owned animal. These actions were not just frowned upon, they were criminal offenses. When asked about the events leading up to the horse's reaction, the guard remained professional and concise in his explanation. "Civilian climbed the horse," he stated firmly, his tone devoid of emotion. The horse responded defensively. The officer nodded, glancing down at Jessica, who now appeared far less defiant than she had moments earlier. Her face drained of color as the reality of her situation sank in. "Assault on a Royal Guard's horse is a criminal offense," the officer informed her calmly. "To make matters worse," he added, "and there are about 20 videos of it online already." This revelation hit Jessica like a ton of bricks. She realized that her actions would not only land her in legal trouble, but also subject her to relentless public scrutiny. As the investigation unfolded, authorities confirmed that Jessica would face charges for trespassing on government property, interfering with a royal guard, and endangering a government animal. Each charge carried significant penalties, including potential fines and even jail time. For Jessica, this was a nightmare scenario. What had started as a drunken attempt at humor had spiraled into a full-blown legal ordeal. Back at the hospital later that night, her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. Social media users were dissecting her every move, labeling her behavior as disrespectful and reckless. Hashtags like hashtag horse justice and hashtag Royal Guard hero dominated Twitter feeds, while memes mocking her circulated widely. Clips of the incident were shared under captions such as American tourist gets owned by Royal Guard's horse and drunk Karen learns the hard way. The irony of the situation was undeniable. While Jessica lay injured and humiliated, the horse she had tried to mount emerged as a symbol of dignity and professionalism. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with the horse and the guard, further compounding Jessica's shame. Even her defense, that the guard hadn't stopped her, fell flat when bystanders pointed out that climbing over barriers and touching restricted animals was never acceptable. In the end, Jessica's disregard for rules and boundaries cost her dearly, not just legally, but personally and socially as well. Her ill-conceived decision turned what should have been a memorable vacation into a cautionary tale about accountability and respect. The incident at Buckingham Palace serves as a glaring example of cultural insensitivity, highlighting the importance of respecting traditions and boundaries when visiting iconic landmarks. Jessica's reckless behavior was not just an isolated act of drunken impulsiveness, it was a profound disregard for the cultural significance of the Royal Guards and their horses. For centuries, the Royal Guards have been symbols of discipline, loyalty, and national pride in the United Kingdom. Their presence at Buckingham Palace is steeped in history, representing the enduring legacy of the British monarchy. Yet to Jessica, they were nothing more than props for her amusement. Her decision to climb over the barrier and attempt to mount a Royal Guard's horse demonstrated a complete lack of understanding, or perhaps even indifference toward these deeply rooted traditions. Cultural sensitivity requires visitors to recognize and honor the customs of the places they visit. In this case, the rules surrounding the Royal Guards are clear. They are not there to entertain or engage with tourists, but to perform their duties with professionalism and dignity. The barriers separating the public from the guards and their horses exist for a reason: to protect both the guards and the animals while maintaining the solemnity of the royal ceremony. By ignoring these boundaries, Jessica disrupted the integrity of the event and disrespected the very institution that draws millions of tourists to London each year. Her actions sent a message that she viewed the guards and their horses as mere spectacles, rather than representatives of a cherished cultural heritage. What made this moment particularly egregious was the global reaction it sparked. Social media users from around the world condemned Jessica's behavior, emphasizing how her actions clashed with the respect typically accorded to such institutions. Comments like, "She had no business touching that horse," and "This is why we need stricter rules for tourists," flooded platforms, reflecting widespread outrage over her cultural insensitivity. Even those who might have initially found humor in the situation quickly shifted to criticizing her lack of awareness. The irony was undeniable. Jessica had traveled thousands of miles to experience London's rich culture, only to tarnish her trip and her reputation by failing to appreciate it. Ultimately, this incident underscores the importance of approaching foreign cultures with humility and respect. Tourists have a responsibility to educate themselves about local customs and adhere to established guidelines, especially in historically significant locations. For Jessica, her failure to do so resulted in injury, humiliation, and a permanent stain on her character. As the saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Unfortunately for Jessica, her inability to embrace this philosophy turned what should have been a memorable vacation into a cautionary tale about the dangers of cultural insensitivity. In the wake of Jessica's reckless behavior at Buckingham Palace, one unexpected hero emerged from the chaos: the Royal Guard's horse. What began as a seemingly harmless attempt at humor turned into a dramatic confrontation that left the crowd and the internet cheering for the majestic animal. Throughout the incident, the horse remained steadfast and professional, embodying the dignity and discipline expected of its role. When Jessica drunkenly climbed over the barrier and attempted to mount the horse, it reacted instinctively but proportionally, rearing up only after repeated provocation. Its response was not born out of malice but self-defense, a natural reaction to an unfamiliar and threatening situation. While Jessica's actions were chaotic and disrespectful, The horse's composure under pressure became a symbol of grace and resilience. As videos of the incident spread online, public opinion overwhelmingly sided with the horse. Social media users praised its poise and professionalism, contrasting its dignified demeanor with Jessica's reckless behavior. Memes and hashtags like #Justice for the Royal Horse flooded platforms, turning the animal into an unlikely celebrity. Comments such as, "The horse has more class than her," and "The real hero of the day" dominated discussions, highlighting how deeply people admired the animal's ability to maintain its composure despite the disturbance. Even after rearing up and nearly injuring Jessica, the horse quickly calmed down once the guard regained control, showcasing its training and temperament. This stark contrast between the horse's controlled reaction and Jessica's escalating recklessness made the animal appear even more heroic in the eyes of the public. What made this moment particularly poignant was the horse's symbolic representation of tradition and professionalism. To many observers, the horse wasn't just an animal, it was a living embodiment of centuries-old customs associated with the British monarchy. The polished leather of its saddle, the glossy sheen of its mane, and its perfectly still stance before the incident all reinforced the solemnity of its role. By defending itself against Jessica's intrusion, the horse inadvertently protected not only its handler, but also the integrity of the royal ceremony. In doing so, it earned admiration from people worldwide who viewed it as a guardian of cultural heritage. Ironically, while Jessica sought attention by attempting to climb the horse, her actions backfired spectacularly, leaving her humiliated and vilified. Meanwhile, the horse emerged as the true star of the story, celebrated for its strength, elegance, and unwavering professionalism. For many, the incident served as a reminder of the respect owed to both animals and traditions. The horse's heroic image will undoubtedly endure long after Jessica's embarrassing fall fades from memory, standing as a testament to the enduring power of dignity and grace in the face of chaos. The incident at Buckingham Palace offers profound lessons about respect, responsibility, and the consequences of reckless behavior. Values that resonate deeply with audiences of all ages, especially seniors. First and foremost, it underscores the importance of respecting boundaries, whether cultural, legal, or personal. Just as Jessica's disregard for the barriers at the palace led to chaos, ignoring limits in life can result in harm not only to oneself, but also to others. This story reminds us to approach new environments with humility and awareness, particularly when engaging with traditions or customs different from our own. Additionally, the horse's dignified response teaches a lesson in self-control and professionalism. Despite provocation, it reacted instinctively yet proportionally, a model of grace under pressure. For older adults who have spent decades navigating challenges, this reinforces the value of composure in difficult situations. Finally, the public reaction highlights how actions speak louder than words. One moment of poor judgment can leave a lasting impact on reputation. In essence, this tale encourages mindfulness, respect for others, and thoughtful decision-making, timeless principles that enrich lives and strengthen communities across generations.